Well,
Well, we
we're going to go ahead and get started.
yeah.
Dustin, do you have our key points outline?
I do not. Was it in the email?
I don't think it was in the recent email, but I'll put a link here in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, because that'll be helpful to you. What we're going to be talking about this evening is license law, in specifically in regards to licensing requirements and also license status change. And I'm going to talk about some key points, some of which you're going to see again sometime when you're standing in front of a computer and taking your exam, and then we're going to do some mock test questions. Okay, and that's
Okay.
how we're going to proceed. Feel free to chime in at any time if you're confused about something or how things work. So what happens is, in order to get a real estate license in our state, and this is pretty similar to most states, you have to be over 18. 18 is considered the age when you can become licensed. You can be a U.S. citizen or you can be a legal alien. You're not supposed to be an illegal alien, but that's getting hard to determine whether you are or not.
Mhm.
You got to have a high school diploma or a GED. Okay. And you got to pass an exam. And once you pass the exam, you have to pay some fees. Okay. Simple enough and fairly easy to remember. Remember, Dustin, and Larry, welcome. You are preparing for a recognition exam. So by going over these key points on a regular basis, and Larry, the if you don't have the key point outline, there's a link in the chat. You might want to get that. But those are things that just make sense and are really not that hard. An example of a test question you might see might be something like, you have to be either 18 or 21, or they have various things like that. So if you realize it's 18, you'll just see that and you'll recognize it. So you're not preparing for a completion exam where they're going to come in and say, list 2 or 3 of the things you have to get a license in Utah, and there's 3 blanks. Okay, it's all multiple choice. The right answer will be in front of you. You just have to be able to recognize it. Okay. The Division of Real Estate administers the licensing law in Utah. It's the Division of Real Estate. Some states call it other names, but in our state, it's called the Division of Real Estate, and it's part of the Department of Commerce. If you've had misdemeanor problems for theft, fraud, or dishonesty, or misrepresentation within 3 years before you apply, you will be disqualified. And if you've had any felony conviction within 5 years of making an application, you'll be ineligible. So any felony for anything would make you ineligible if that is not older than, if it's fresher than 5 years, you're, quit now and save some money and time. but other things like misdemeanors for theft, fraud, dishonesty, or misrepresentation, which they all consider to be knockout items to become a trusted real estate agent, within 3 years before your application will disqualify you as well. So felonies, 5 years, goes back further, and 3 years for the misdemeanors for theft, fraud, dishonesty, or misrepresentation. Okay. If you have a law degree, if you've passed the bar exam, you still need to take the real estate exam and pass it. But the real estate exam is much simpler than the bar exam. The nice thing for the lawyers is that they don't have to take the 120 hours of education. They can just apply for and take the exam right away. The division is of course the administrators that administer the law. The people that make the law is the legislature. And the legislature in our state felt like, well, if you spent 3 years in mind-numbing law school, you're going to be as equally prepared to protect the public and serve the public as you would if you just went to 120 hours of real estate school. And so they let lawyers come in and just take the exam, but they still have to pass the exam. So it's quite often that we get a lot of attorneys that come and take the review session of our school just because we have a lot of good information on what they need to know for the exam. but they don't need to take the 120 hours. Lawyers are exempt from that. In our state, we have 2 classifications of licenses, pretty much, broker and sales agent. Now, under broker, there's 2 kinds of broker's license. There's the the principal broker license, and then there's what we call an associate broker's license. Each one of those licenses is a broker's license. It's just that if you are an associate broker, it means that you're not responsible for a firm. It means that you are working under another broker who is a principal broker. So, and of course, the other classification is the sales agent. Now, a sales agent, if they want to become a broker, must have 3 years of experience, and then they have to go back and take some schooling, just like you have to do for the sales license. The schooling you have to take is the same amount of hours. It's 120 hours, but the curriculum is a little bit different. It's a little more in-depth, particularly in regards to things like management and trust accounts and running a brokerage. But it still covers all the basics because you have to have those as well. And then you have to have your 3 years experience. Now, in addition to just the clock experience, the 3 years clock experience, you have to show that you've done something. You have to show that you have actually done transactions. And the way they do that is there is a schedule that we'll look at in a little bit that shows that you have to get experience points, and then you have to accumulate 60 points in the 36 months and the 120 hours before you can go ahead and take the broker's exam. And the points are pretty clear. You need to review that schedule. We'll look at one in just a moment, and see what kind of things you can get points for. But they're for doing transactions. If you're doing property management, you get points for doing property management. If you're doing sales, you get points for doing sales, listing and selling. And so we'll look at those in a few moments. If you're doing transactions and you're doing them as a team, or you're doing them with a partner, you have multiple agents, like my wife and I used to do a lot of things together when she was licensed, then she could only get half credit and I would get half credit, but I'm already a broker, so I really didn't need the credit, but I couldn't give it all to her unless my name wasn't on any of the paperwork. In other words, if she'd done everything on her own, being the only agent involved, she would get the full credit for the points. But if there's multiple agents involved, you're only going to get partial credit for those points. Okay. Now, once you have a broker's license and you have people under you, sometimes they just disappear. Well, you don't want an agent just flat out disappeared. You can't get a hold of them because you don't know what they're doing, and they could be doing things that could get you in trouble, because brokers are responsible for the acts of their agents. And so occasionally, if you've tried to call an agent, they don't answer the phone, you go by their address, they're not living there anymore, they just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. Well, then a broker could terminate that agent by sending them a certified letter to the last known address. But a broker is responsible for you. They're going to want to make sure you keep your license active. They're going to want to make sure you turn in your transactions and that you come in for training, that you're following the policy and procedure manuals, and you're doing everything that you can do to become a better agent and to serve the public and safeguard the interests of the public as well. Okay, so once you apply for a license, you need to designate the broker you're going to go to work for initially. If you send in your license without a broker designated, then they will license you, but they'll license you as inactive. And then if you find a broker later, then you can take that inactive license and go active. Most of you won't do that. Most of you will find a broker after you take your exam, or sometimes even before, and then you'll affiliate with that broker. So when you send in your application, it will designate that broker. But if you don't, they're going to license you, but they'll license you inactive. An inactive agent can keep your license like any other agent. You just can't do anything. In other words, you cannot do anything if your license is what status? Inactive. Okay. Still have a license, but your license is inactive. Still have to disclose if you're buying something for yourself, that you have a real estate license and you disclose, I have a license, but it's inactive. Not much advantage to having an inactive license, except the fact that you can immediately activate if you want to become active without the, the pause and the delay of going through 120 hours and taking an exam and all that stuff. So if you get into business and you decide, well, I'm going to take a break or whatever, you could go inactive and then you can reactivate later. And to reactivate, sometimes while you're inactive, you don't have to, you still have to renew your license every 2 years like everybody else does, but you don't have to submit continuing education credit at the time you renew your license. But if you've been inactive for a long period of time, there will be some license hours that are the continuing ed hours that are required, but they classify them a little differently. They call them reactivation hours. And so they might restrict different classes that they would allow for reactivation hours. The best way to figure out what that is to call the division and ask them. And usually they're going to be things on Utah law, particularly Utah law changes, because if you've been inactive for 4 or 5 years, you haven't probably kept track of the law changes and where things are currently. So they want you to hone in on some reactivation hours. And you're usually less than what it takes to reactivate if you've been for like 2 or 3 2 or 3 periods where you only just which would be a 2-year period. Let's say you've been inactive for 6 years. Well, the only advantage to you is you can get going again quickly by just taking some continuing ed hours, and they wouldn't total up to what active agents have to do over that same period of time. Active agents, every time you renew, have to get a total of 18 credit hours, 9 of which would classify as core, and 9 of which could be elective. The core classes are things they want you to pay particular attention to, like new law changes or agency, or things that they feel that agents are having trouble with. So they'll designate those classes as core classes. But you can take as many CE credit hours as you like. I think more education is always better than less. But a lot of agents just try to skate by under 18 hours. Agents that really want to learn the business usually do a lot more than that. But just make sure you have the minimum of 9 core hours. And as a brand new agent, they have some other restrictions. As a brand new agent for your very first renewal, which will be 2 years after your first license, it has nothing to do with your birthday. It has to do with the month that you first license in. And your first renewal as a brand new agent, it's required that you take a special class called the new agent class. The new agent class is all core, and it's a day and a half. It's 12 hours of core. So if you take that new agent class of 12 hours of core, you only need 6 hours of anything. And then you can renew your first year. Now there's an additional requirement that's put on all agents now, and that is they have a required class. And the required class comes in several different flavors. There is residential, commercial, and property management. And within those different categories, there's some variations as well. So every agent, whether you're new or not, has to take the 3-hour required course, and you can take it in any of those variations depending on what you're interested in. So that means for you brand new folks, your first year when you renew, you're going to need the 12-hour new agent class and the 3-hour required class. So that's 15 of your 18 hours. So you're not going to have a lot of choices on your minimum number of classes you need for your first renewal. You've got to take those 2 classes for sure, and that leaves you some others that you could take that are electives or whatever else you want to take, or other core classes. Hope that's clear as mud, but your renewal as active agents is always going to, right now, unless they change it, it's going to be 18 hours. Minimum of 9 core, and 9 can be electives, or it could be all 18 hours of core. And of course, new agents that are renewing for the very first time, 12-hour new agent class, plus the 3-hour required class. Experienced agents, a minimum of the 3-hour required class, which is core, 18 3 other core, it's 6 hours of other core classes minimum for a minimum of 9, and then 9 hours of anything else you want to take, or it could all be core. So you can mix and match and take whatever you want. I would highly recommend you come to my new my new agent class for a couple of reasons. First, it's free to any of you that are within the sound of my voice. Just let me know who you are, and you get in for free. Not only that, my new agent class is more fun than the other ones. We're mandated on what exactly we have to teach, but how we teach, it's totally up to us. And so we have a really good time in mind. And also, if you come, I'll give you a copy of my best-selling book called Limitless in this beautiful gold-bound edition. And this is a book on how to conquer the mind game of real estate. And in other words, real estate is, a lot of it occurs up here. It's a sales profession, and you've got to get your head straight on how you're going to get that accomplished. And you got to eliminate all your self-defeating behaviors. Well, that's what Limitless does. And I'll give you a copy of the book. Normally sells for about $24, but you can have it for free. Okay, free class, free book. And you never know. We have other things we give you as well that you might enjoy. Okay, all right. So with that blatant commercial announcement, which will not benefit me other than to get to know you personally, or you can take somebody else's class too, be bored and not get the book. Okay, anyway, the next thing. Okay. So a couple more things, and then we'll move into some test questions. All right, we got, if you move to a different office, you've got to let the division know. Now, if you do your transfer by the Realms online transfer, they're going to know because that's all interaction with the division's software and website. But you can switch from one company to another. You're not obligated to stay with the broker any particular amount of time, unless you've agreed to that in some sort of a employment agreement. Some brokers have an employment agreement that says, well, if I teach you all my secret stuff, you're going to have to stay here for at least a year. I don't know if that's really enforceable or not, but they might try that. But I don't know, if a guy doesn't want to stay or someone doesn't want to stay, it's best just to let him go. So anyway, but if you're going to make a move, you have to let the division know. Now, you could also have done that with a paper form rather than doing with the division's online transfer system. I'd recommend the online transfer system. It's really, really good. It emails the old broker, lets them know you want to leave. It emails the new broker saying this guy their person wants to come work for you. And it's all it happens much quicker than if you don't have to run a thing around town or whatever. Okay, but the division wants to know if you change anything. I mean, changing brokers, you got to let them know within how many days. This is a hint. How many days, guys? 10 days. You have to let them know within 10 days. If you change your address, you have to let them know within 10 days. If you change your name, you have to let them know within 10 days. So, that 10-day thing kind of goes through a lot of different things. Now, if you declare bankruptcy, you got to let them know within 10 days. If you are convicted of some crime, you have to let them know within 10 days. So, all those things, there's a 10-day period on there. The division must know your physical address. You can request that they put in, and they will abide, but you can request that they put the office address or some other PO box or address in the public record, but the division in their private records have to know exactly where you're living, because they need to know where they could send notices to if they want to have you come in for a talk, or if they want to have you come in for a hearing. They need to know where to serve you. So you have to let them know. So if you change your address, they really want to know. Okay, and that is the 10-day thing. Okay, if you're, let's say that you license in the month of April, because April's coming up. You're finishing your schooling, you take the test in March, and you decide to license in April. Then your renewal month will be April thereafter, henceforth, as long as you're licensed in Utah. And it's a good month. It's my renewal month, the month of April. Every 2 years, you'll be getting all your CE credit. Now, Agents tend to leave this CE credit stuff to the last possible moment, which is silly, particularly the new agents, and particularly because of the new agent class. Get in and take that new agent class immediately. As soon as you're licensed, get into the first one you can get into. That's mine, or another one if you want to, but get into one right away. I mean, why wait 2 years to take the new agent class? The new agent class goes through a lot of things which will help get you going, at least if you take mine. And it also gets into a lot of things that will keep you out of trouble. And so don't delay. I mean, you're going to figure out a lot of these things over the first 2 years, but wouldn't it be better to learn and start from the beginning and more of a sprint? So take it as quickly as you can. But if you are waiting to the last month on your CE credit, like a lot of agents do, you need to get everything credit bank before the 15th of April, because if April is your renewal month, it's got to be done before the 15th of whatever month is your renewal month. Why? Because that gives the company that handles all of our credit banking and keeping track of all the history of it, and making sure that you have the right credits and the right amount, and whether they're elective and core and all that stuff. That's the same company that does the administration of the tests. They keep track of this, for Utah, they keep track of all your CE credit. It gives them enough time to bank those credits. So you can't take a class on the 28th and figure it's going to be good for your renewal, which is going to be on the 30th. You've got to renew before the month ends. So just don't leave this stuff to the last minute. Get in and get it done. Okay. All right. That's enough on that. Let's now look at some of the questions. Does anybody have any questions about any of that material? Larry, Donovan, Lindy, Dustin?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Please get that outline. The link is in the chat. The outline is going to be very helpful for you. I would, if I were taking the exam tomorrow, man, I would get this outline and I would spend quality time with that puppy tonight. And it's like 15 pages long, so it's got a lot of great stuff on there. And Dan just flashed up the link to get that again. I would just can't overemphasize that outline. It's one of the things you pay for when you is that these are things you really got to know. Okay. All right. So let's go to some test questions, Dan. Let's pull them up. By the way, Dan Naylor is the owner of our school and the administrator of the school, and he's our producer for tonight's program. Okay. Which of these administrators, or which one of these administrates the real estate licensing? How about the Attorney General? I don't know.
No.
Utah Tax Commission? That's probably a throwaway. The legislature? Well, the legislature makes the laws, but they don't enforce the laws. The Division of Real Estate. Which one of those feels real warm and fuzzy, folks? I would go for D personally. How about you guys? Well, if you pick D, you're right. It's the Division of Real Estate. Now, this is pretty simplistic because there could be other questions that have the same theme, like who regulates you. I've seen another variation of this question where they put in the Utah Association of Realtors. Well, the Utah Association of Realtors, with our big glass building on about 100 South and just on the east side of I-15, it's a beautiful building, 5-story building, and we own that, but it's not the Utah Association of Realtors. It's not the Salt Lake Board. It's not the Utah County Board. It's none of the boards or even the Utah Association of Realtors. None of those. That's a private club. And our private club, you'll want to join as well, because that gives you access to the MLS keys in the MLS. Now, there are some national laws that have just gone into effect and whatnot, and that could be changing to where you don't have to be a member of the Utah Association of Realtors to get access to some of those things. but you're going to want to join anyway. I mean, you know, there's a lot of other benefits, including a lot of free CE education and opportunity to take a mini classes, which will be very helpful to you. Okay. So let's look at the next question, please. Now, remember I said we had a principal broker, and a principal broker can hire sales agents, and they can also hire associate brokers. But a sales agent represents their principal broker. Now, what about these associate brokers? Do they represent themselves? Or do they represent a sales agent? Or do they still represent their principal broker? Or do they still must act as a limited agent? Well, that's kind of a give. That's the throwaway there. What do you think, guys? You can't run around as a sales agent or associate broker without being attached by the umbilical cord to your principal broker. So the correct answer is C. Even as an associate broker, if you choose to affiliate with a brokerage other than your own, that you're running and own, then you're really the same status as a sales agent. So why would I encourage you to get a broker's license? Well, for one thing, it's a natural progression in our business. 3 years, get yourself a broker's license. We have Dan. Is it running around the 40,000 agents now in our state?
Yeah, getting close to that.
Yeah, it's around 38, 40,000, right in there. But brokers, people with brokers licenses, whether they're associate or principal, it's only about 3,000. So folks, hey, why not be in that upper echelon? What benefit would it be to you? Well, you'll probably know the laws a little bit better. It won't necessarily increase your real estate commission. You could start your own company if you wanted to immediately, because you already have a broker's license. So you just change, you leave as associate broker, the company you're working with, and you start as a principal broker of your own company. You could be hired as a hired gun to run another company. And so it's easy to get broker's licenses in other states if you have a broker's license in this state. So, those are all good reasons. And we could use a tuition. So come back to our school. What the hey? And get your broker's license. Come on. Anyway, I think it's great. But as an associate broker, you still have to work for a principal broker. Next question, please. Okay. If you apply for your license, but do not include the brokerage, then what is true? I already discussed this already. Well, there's kind of an asterisk there that gives it away, and that is your license will be issued as an inactive status. So at least you'll have all that out of the way, and it's very simple to move. Now, one disadvantage of going inactive immediately, especially if you're going to choose a broker right away. Let's say you go inactive, and a week later you say, oh, I want to go to work for Hot Dog Realtors. And so you go over there, you talk to the broker, they like you, you like them. And so you contact the division. There's going to be a $15 fee to go from inactive to active. So, if you had decided you want to be at Hot Dog prior to applying, then it'd save you $15. Okay. I don't know. It's probably the small steak at Texas Roadhouse, but nevertheless, it would be, better than paying $15. In order to get experience points, question?
Yeah. So after you pass the test, do you immediately apply for your license, or can you wait a little bit while longer?
You can wait a little bit.
Okay.
There's a period of time where you'll have to take the test again, but it's quite long. It's not weeks. It's more like what, Dan? Is it?
It's 90 days. After
90 days. Yeah.
You just have to get your license in 90 days.
Yeah. Okay. So, there's no, like panting rush, to get down there. I gotta sprint down to the real estate division to get this in.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to time it since I'm moving out there in September. I don't want to take it too early because I haven't really talked to any brokers out there. Yeah.
There's a lot of great brokers in both areas. Cedar City is a great place to get in the real estate business. I had a good friend of mine, Dr. Ken Carlisle. He had a PhD, but Dr. Carlisle licensed with a company in Cedar City. I did some mentoring with him. He was actually one of the Rookie of the Years for the Cedar City board. But it's, Cedar City is a great place. But if you're going to go to St. George, I mean, it's even bigger. I mean, there's even more brokers down there. And it's, man, I tell you, St. George is hot. I mean, not just climate wise, it's very nice to live there,
Yeah.
but it's, man, the market is fantastic right now. Of course, it's good in all of Utah right now.
Yep.
Okay, next question, please. Okay, we did that one. In order to get experience points for a broker application, a sales agent can do what? Now, there's different things that you can do to get experience points. We'll look at a chart in just a moment. Dan, we'll need to bring that up next if you can get that. But how about helping agents find listings? Will that get you experience points? No, that's more of a marketing thing. Design advertising? I don't know. That's more of a marketing thing. Make cold calls. No, I won't get you a license either. In fact, you're not supposed to make cold calls if you don't have a license, but won't get you any experience points. Representing a buyer in a home sale. Well, that's it. Okay. D, representing a buyer in a home sale. Listing a home, putting it on the market, or being the sales agent who finds a buyer and brings them to the home will get you points. Okay. Do you have that chart, Dan?
Yep, let me pull it up here.
Okay, there's a lot of things you can get points for.
Here you go.
And we'll pull this chart up right away. Now, see, it has a table 1 and a table 2 and a table 3. Okay. Now, if you're looking at these tables, most of you are going to be selling houses. And if you look under residential right there, points can be accumulated from either the selling or the listing side of the real estate closing. Now, we could, in our jargon, the selling side is the one that brought the buyer, and the listing side is the one's working with the seller. Now, for a 1-unit house, just like a single dwelling, whether it's a condo, a townhouse, or a single family, it's 2.5 points. Okay. If it's a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, it's 5 points. It's kind of, I don't know, that it's no extra work, but you get twice the points. If you're selling an apartment building, which is 5 units or over, you get 10 points. Okay. And if you're just selling a lot, it's 2 points. But if you're selling vacant land, like, like acreage that could be possibly used for a subdivision or something, it's not an improved lot. It hasn't been subdivided yet. A 20-acre, 40-acre parcel, whatever, 10 points. Now, I don't know why or how they came up with the points, but roughly speaking, if you were only on one side, if you're doing all, you need 60 points over 3 years, right? So that's 20 points a year, which means how many transactions have you got to do, guys, if you're selling just single family houses on one side? All right, math geniuses, tell me. You need 20 points.
Huh? 8 1-unit dwellings?
Yeah, 8. That's right. Now, I don't know what your income requirements or goals are, but this business is the opportunity is phenomenal. I mean, but if you're selling 8 units, the average price of a house in these days in Utah is approaching mid threes. Okay, but let's just say it's where's my calculator? There it is. Okay, let's just say it's $350,000. Okay, and if you're on one side, and if you got 3% on your one side, that's gross. That's $10,500 gross. Your broker's going to take some of that. So let's say you're on a 70-30 split or something. That's $7,350. Okay. And if you did 8 transactions only on one side or the other, that's about $60,000 to you guys. Okay, which is pretty dang good. I mean, National Association of Realtor averages the average agent across America, full-time, part-time, whatever, if you average it all out, is about 4 transactions a year, which is not much. Okay. So $58,800 if you did your 8 transactions and they were all around 350. If you're doing the 400, 500, $600,000, it's going to be a lot more than that, but you can do this. I mean, you can do it. My first year in the business, I sold 58 houses, 58. Of course, I was rookie of the year, which was okay, but I'm proud of that, but I'm more proud of the fact that I've developed 8 other rookie of the years, like Dr. Carlisle, and hundreds of agents that have won other awards. But you can get a feel for this. Now, if you're doing commercial, hotel or motel, 10 points, industrial warehouse, 10 points, office building, 10 points, retail building, 10 points. I've got a restaurant in northern Ogden under contract right now, 1.7 mil, and that will get me 10 points, which I don't care because I already have a broker's license. But so you could do a combination of different things. Now, you see on here it says residential and commercial. Okay, now your license that you get says that you can sell real estate anywhere in Utah. It's a Utah license. So if you want to roam all over the state selling things, you can do that. It's difficult sometimes because you're not an expert in those areas. But on the other hand, if your Aunt Maud calls you and says, honey, I just love you, and I understand you have a Utah license, and you're living in not in Park City, you're living in St. George. She says, I want to buy a house in Park City. Well, what price, Aunt Maud? Well, about, 3.5 to 4.5 million. You can take your aunt to Park City and you can find agents that'll help you to sell their listings for a $4 million sale. Okay. You don't have to necessarily refer them, but there's some things you need to know in different markets. Park City has some peculiarities in that some of the soil in different areas is tainted by mining tailings, and you need to know that. I mean, St. George has areas where we have really bad, expansive soil. Some of the subdivisions there, the foundations need to be corrected all the time. So every area has peculiarities that you're going to have to know about, but in working with the listing agents, they can help you with that. Now that's on the sales side. Now scroll it up a little bit, Dan. And some of you are going to get involved with property management, which is a cool thing to do if that's what you want to do. In fact, I know a broker right now that if you're sharp and want to live in the Utah County area that's looking for agents, a really good friend of mine, great guy, great company, and he'll give you a cell phone, he'll give you a car, and he'll give you a wage to come work for him if you want to do some property management type activities to start. So for some of you who are looking for, or you need some sort of a job just for the security of a monthly income, you can still get started in real estate with him if you wanted to. And some of his people have been with him. I know some that have been there for 10 years and more. They love the guy. Well, so do I. He's a great guy. But if you're interested in that, give me a call. But I'll be happy to refer you. But he doesn't hire lazy, stupid people. You got to be working and you got to be good. But he'll teach you. Okay, so if you're managing things, you get 1 point per unit up to 5 points. For managing that. Each unit leased, if you have a lease turnover, another 1.25 points. And all other property management, 1/4 point per month. So last year I was running a property management company for about a year or so, and I had 80 commercial buildings and 325 residential units. So it doesn't take you long to accumulate points, but that's residential. On commercial side, it's 1 point up to 5 points, 1.5 points, so forth. Just so have a feel for these. Okay. Now you have to get points, and but there's other things that you can get some points for, and that's on table number 3. And on this table, it talks a little bit about other activities that you could have done prior to getting into real estate that would give you additional experience points. If you're a real estate attorney and you can write something that they would say, well, looks like you did quite a bit of attorney work in real estate, then give you 1 point per month. So, and that could go back a ways. Okay. If you're certified public accountant, a point a month, mortgage officer, the points are all pretty much the same, unless you're a pre-licensed instructor, which is the last one. So it's just all 1 point per month. So a pre-licensing instructor or certified, this won't apply to any of you anyway. I don't know why it's on here, except that it may apply to you later if you want to teach real estate classes. But a bank officer that does real estate loans, an appraiser, a title agent, escrow agent, loan officer, public accountant, or an attorney, all of which would give you experience which could safeguard the public. So you can get quite a few points here. Now, you can't get all your points off this table. You have to get some points off the other table as well. Okay, so exactly how that splits out.
So the page I'm looking at right here is a public page you can find on the Division of Real Estate website.
Yeah.
But it says right here what Rick was about to refer to, that
right. Tables 1 and 2, which are actually actively property managing or selling and things. You get, that's the print's too small for me to see. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So one new rule that's just a couple of years old is that half of your points have to be in Utah.
Okay. So if you're coming in from another state, you can use some of your experience points, but not all.
Right.
So 30 points. Okay. And so, see, I don't know what rule -62-2F and so forth says, but I don't know. I can't remember. I just looked at that too before, but it doesn't really matter that much. I just want you to have a feel for what it says. And you might see something that says you've done so many transactions, how many experience points have you, you have enough experience points in order to get your broker's license. Okay, so just have a feel for that. Okay, and the question on this that I've seen is pretty obvious. It's not, horrendous. I think you'll be just fine with that. Okay, let's look at our next test question, please. Okay. Okay, sales agents fulfill requirements to get their associate broker's license. Now they do not have to disclose their license status. What do you think, guys? That's a giveaway. No, you always have to disclose your license status. Even if you're inactive, you have to disclose your license status. You're still required to work under principal or branch broker. A branch broker is someone that's designated to be responsible for a group, a branch. It's becoming less and less popular. The division has recently changed the rules again to where principal broker could run as many offices as they want. It used to be 1, and then it was 3, and now it's unlimited. So they would, if you wanted to have like 10 offices in the state, they had to employ branch brokers. To be a branch broker, you had to have an associate broker's license and designated as a branch broker for that office. Smart brokers, realize that if they're based out of Salt Lake and they've got an office in Monticello, they probably need someone down there to work with the agents. And so they'll probably put a branch broker in place, but it's not necessarily a requirement. Do you have to work more hours than a regular agent? I don't know. You might work more, you might work less, but that has nothing to do with you being an associate broker. And must act as a limited agent. Obviously, that's a giveaway. So which one of these you think is true, guys? If you're guessing B, You're right. Okay. Next question, please.
It's there.
Licensee must provide a home address to the Division of Real Estate. Which one of these is appropriate? The street address where they reside. That sounds warm and fuzzy. Hang on to that one. Their office address, their P.O. box, a friend's address. Throw away D for sure. Throw away C. So your office address or your home address. What do you think? And the question says licensee must provide a home address. So probably not the office address. It's got to be A, guys, right? They want to know where you live. They want to know where you live so they can serve you if they have to. And make sure they can get a hold of you. And you got to, if you change addresses, you got to let them know within 10 days. Change your name, 10 days. Go bankrupt, 10 days. Get convicted of a crime, 10 days. You got to let them know what's happening in your life so they can keep track of you. Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Question?
Oh no, I was acknowledging. What
Okay. Next question, please. If a licensee leaves their brokerage and joins another brokerage, how soon must they notify the Division of Real Estate?
10 days.
10 days.
10 days.
Bang, 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 bang. Boy, that would pop right out at you, didn't it? Now, I know this is real easy, right? But what's going to happen is you're going to be in a timed exam. So you're going to get there and you're going to say you got 4 hours, okay? And you've got 2 sections to pass. You've got the national and the state. The national is going to be about 80 plus questions. When I say 80 plus, there'll be 80 questions plus a few others. Wait, what are you talking about? Well, there's 80 questions that count for or against you, but there'll be a few others are thrown in that are test questions, but they don't tell you which are which. So plan on about 83 to 85, and then you've got the state exam, which is another whole exam. And so you're in there, you're just churning down this thing, you're doing well. Some of these questions on the national you can answer within seconds. You look at it, nope, there it is, got it. Next question. Nope. Oh no, it's there, I see it. Next question. And you can go through just that fast. Okay. If you see a question that's a killer, and it's a question from hell, and you've never even heard about this topic, it might be one of the test questions, because if it's a topic that you're going to see in a test, we've got it in our program. If it's something new that they're adding, we may not know about that yet until they approve it. And so they're testing a test question, and then we're going to find out about it, and then we'll know about it, and then we'll have it. But mark it for review, and the question will be brought back to you at the end of your national test. At the end of your national test, you close that out. You can't go back to it. You close it out, and then you go to the state. The state test, I would, if you're really, really slow, you might take 2 hours on the national and still have 2 hours for the state. The state is less questions, but there's some back and forth. Now, what I mean by that is you'll be given a settlement sheet, and it's great because it's kind of like a crib sheet. The answer is on the sheet, but if you're not familiar with them, you're going to get confused, and it might, it's going to take you time to go back and forth between that, because you can't split screen very well, and they're not giving you double screens, so you got to maybe shift back and forth and move things around a little bit. So you can play with the computer when you first get there to learn how to manipulate the computer, and that doesn't count on your time. And then when you're done playing with it and understanding, and there's some exercises you can do to teach you how to use a computer, then you say, okay, I'm ready to start the test, and then they start your time. The other cool thing is that they have a countdown timer, so you can see how much time you have left, so you don't have to do any quick math. You could just look and see how much time you got left. But give yourself sufficient time to go back and forth, because you'll have a settlement sheet, and you'll have a contract, you'll have a scenario that you're going to have to get information out of. And we've got some things that'll help you get ready for that. But, I talked with a student recently who passed the national and did not pass the state. She took too much time on a national. By the time she got the state, she realized that she was, pushing it, and she freaked out and she didn't even answer like the last 10 questions. Had she answered the last 10 questions, even if she just guessed C on all of them, she probably would have passed, but she didn't. So she had to go back and take the state. And she called, and we talked, and I said, look, it's okay. You're halfway there. When she went back to take her retest, she only had to take the state portion. She'd already passed the national. But you don't want to do that because it costs more money. Or get charged another test fee. I'd rather you took that money and take your sweetheart out for a nice dinner to celebrate you passing the exam. Okay, we've got a couple more questions, I believe, right? Or just one, Dan? One or two?
I think just one more.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what that is. Your license is going to expire. If the license is expired for a year, what happens? Okay, all right. So you're inactive, and you're not keeping track of things. The division will, most likely send you an email, but if you've changed your email, they're not going to know. They'll send you something in the mail, and if you change your address, they're not going to know because you didn't let them know, and you should have. But what happens? Well, if you've been expired for a year, then you're in big trouble because it goes all the way to D here, where you got to start all over again. Now, that means you got to go back and take the 120 hours all over again and pass the exam all over again and apply, just like you did the first time, and then take the new agent class and the whole 9 yards. So don't do that. Okay. Because you're going to pass the exam. You can do this. Okay. And if you work hard, you're going to do great in the business too. Now, working hard, like I said, is a lot of it occurs up here. Okay. All of us come into this business with self-defeating behaviors. A few people come in and they're very sales oriented. They've been very successful in sales. That wasn't me when I came into the business. I had to overcome a lot of things to do as well as I did. And there's nothing special about me. You can do this too. Okay. But a lot of it is getting your head straight and knowing what to do and then figuring out how to do it. So get with a good broker who could put you on the right path, someone that can direct you and be there for you. For heaven's sakes, get with a broker you can get a hold of. Some brokers are extremely hard to get a hold of, but they have sales managers, and that's cool too. Some of you will be joining a team, and they'll have a work progress or a path that they all work on, and that might be helpful for some of you as well. Dan and I are committed to get you through this exam. But even more than that, we're committed here at our school to help you get up and running and to make a successful career out of it. But a lot of it's going to depend on you. There's no one's going to grab you and force you to do anything. One joke that's running around our business, which unfortunately is more true, although it is funny, and that is, what's the first thing most real estate agents do when they get up in the morning? And the answer is go to lunch. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't do that. Get to work early, or at least start early. A lot of you will be working out of your home, which is fine. There's tons of stuff you can do. You're going to have to contact a lot of people, and most people don't want to talk to a real estate agent or don't want to do anything in real estate. It's okay. It's not like they're rejecting you. It's just they have no need for real estate help right now. But if you keep asking and talking to and contacting people, particularly people who love you and will work with you, even though they know you've only been in the business for 3 weeks. My first sale and my first listing came from my brother-in-law, Steve, who, bless his heart, he waited till I got a license before so I could help him go out and find a house. And the very first week in the business, we went out, and day one, I was out with Steven in my car, and we found a house. Day two, I wrote it up. I took it back to my sales manager, and he rewrote it. I guess it was very good. And we presented it to the seller, and the seller accepted it. So my first sale. Now, Steven was the only person I knew in town. So I asked Steve, I said, Steve, well, do you know of anyone else that might want to do something in real estate? And he says, yeah, Rick, there's this guy in my ward. He says he's going to be moving. I said, well, let's get him on the phone. So Steven called him. He handed me the phone. I said, yeah, Steven's all excited. We just found him a house. And he said, you might be moving. He says, oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Well, can I come over and talk to you about it? Well, how about tonight? And I went right over and listed his house. My first sale, my first listing came from Steven, my brother-in-law. Thank you, Steven, who, by the way, came into the business a year after me. It's been about 44 years now, and Steven's still a broker. He's a broker in Las Vegas. And guys, the people that love you will support you from the beginning. And they know you're new, but you're licensed by the state of Utah. How bad can you mess it up? And you have brokers and other people are going to help you. So start to put together a list of people that you know, because don't solicit them now. You can't solicit them until you have a license. But anyway, rickroller.com. Go ahead.
So it may be different for beginners compared to people who are more advanced, but I mean, typically, do you find clients with referrals through your brokerage, or is it more like self-directed? You have to go find them.
Your broker is not going to give you people to work with. Okay.
Okay.
If I'm a broker and I have a hot lead, am I going to give it to the person I know it's a proven performer, or to a brand new agent?
Proven performer. Yeah.
Proven performer. Okay. For the most part, I mean, that's just survival. This is a straight commission business. And for the most part, unless you go to work for that property manager guy I was talking about earlier, but there's 6 sources of business that are going to give you most of your business your first 2 years. And the one of the very top ones is your friends and family. Underneath that, it's sphere of influence. Sphere of influence are people that you know from a former job. Now, Dustin, you're moving states. You're not going to know a lot of people when you get there. You're going to be a lot like I was when I started. I moved in the community, and 2 months later, I was a licensed agent. Only one I knew was my brother-in-law, Steven. But I leaned on Steven for people that he knew, so there's ways to work all this, folks, and I'd be happy to share any of these things with you, but our time is up for this evening. I do have a website, rickroller.com, and if you go there, you can find, actually, there's a link to my book. You can get a digital copy if you'd like, or an audio copy. And there's some videos on how to choose your first broker, and there's several other things that'll help you get started. Oh, yeah, there's another one on things you can do while you're in real estate to get ready so you hit the bricks running. So all that's free. There's no charge for any of this stuff. Dan, thank you very much for being our producer tonight and making everything run so smoothly. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Oh, thank you.
My phone number, 801-556-8000. That's 801-556-8000. Operators are standing by. That's my personal cell phone number. I answer it myself. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Rick. We're real thrilled to have you here with us with all your expertise, and so glad you could be with us. Thanks, everyone, for coming. And like Rick said, give him a call with any questions, or give us a call here at the school. Happy to help you with anything up to getting licensed and beyond.
Hey, and if you know someone's looking for a good school, send them our way, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.